Yeah. It's been going pretty well. There hasn't been any real problems or catastrophes.
Oh, good.
So
Well,
yeah.
that's good. That's good.
So, yeah. How have things been over there?
Good. We were just saying the other day how grateful we were for um, the windows your father put in for us.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it just made a real difference in not having breeze in rooms.
Right, right. They were
Um,
pretty drafty before, huh?
well, a couple of them were,
Hmm.
and they, they didn't put great windows in when they built the house. Uh,
Hmm.
Unfortunately, we weren't we weren't really aware as much as we should have been about what was going on.
Oh,
They did a lot of good things, but they cut some other corners.
yeah. Well,
Um, Things we didn't think about at the time. And the windows weren't bad, they just were not great. Um,
yeah.
and, like they did the poorest possible gravel in the driveway,
Hmm.
which, as you know, if you've driven into our driveway, um, is not wonderful.
Hmm.
There were several things. It was just, it was a learning process. Actually, about a year after we got into the house, I had Peter Olson change all the doors in the house
Wow.
because they were all, empty core doors, and I had him change them all to solid doors.
Yeah, the solid joints make a big difference.
Oh, yeah, huge.
Yeah,
So, live and learn.
that's it.
I'm never going to build another house.
Oh, I was gonna say live and learn for the next time you build a house, right?
Yeah, right. Morning, Bill.
Morning, morning, Adam.
Hey, good morning. How you doing, Bill?
Okay.
How you feeling, Bill?
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no pain?
No, no pain. It's just a matter of waiting till next Monday till the pathology comes in, and then we'll see. But I'm optimistic because they didn't take any teeth this time, so it must have
All right.
looked okay. I mean,
Hmm.
despite the infection, so yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Good.
it's funny. I reacted probably more strongly to this oral surgery than to my knee.
Oh, that's interesting. Well,
There's something about, having something go wrong up here as opposed
yep,
to a mechanical thing down, in your knee. So,
yep. Yeah. Good morning, Joanne.
Good morning. Good
Hey,
Hey, good
morning.
morning.
I'm here.
You are. You're here. How are you doing this morning?
Well, I'm okay. Just I'm still in that frantic. Oh my God. I don't have any time. So I've been up for hours getting things done. So
Oh,
that's okay. We just hired two new staff people for our community land trust, and I
uh,
was in the hiring team, and now I'm on the orientation team, and then I'll be on the personnel committee. So we're at a peak. It will get better as they learn more, but the
yeah,
learning
yeah,
intensity is, yeah.
yeah. Well,
Oh, well. Oh, good.
if you get onto those committees, you're.
Well, I'm president of the board. I have to be on those
Oh,
committees. I have no choice. That's the other thing. But that's
oh,
why it will be less work, because I've been kind of the fill-in executive director for a while. And
ah,
that's not my job. That's just my volunteer stuff,
yeah.
but yeah, that's okay. That's all right.
Um, Well, good. And where is Mr. Bynum?
He wrote and said he couldn't make it. I think he wrote the other day, didn't he?
Yeah, he sent an email.
He did.
Yeah.
I don't.
Um,
Oh, that's
Yep.
interesting.
Yeah.
I don't. Was not aware of getting one.
Huh. I did see that.
Oh well, good. I'm glad. Other people. Uh, it's really interesting with email because had some difficulty recently in sending out the video link and notes to a couple of you.
Yeah, I had trouble. I might have dropped it by mistake or deleted it by mistake, but I couldn't find it. But I got it the second time. And then Bill's thing was part of that thread. So that's, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't have any answer, but that's okay.
That's okay. You're not looking for answers on that one, Dave.
I don't have to have all the answers.
Many other deep things we want to know, but that's not one.
Well, I've got some for you. Okay. And I am recording.
Good, yeah. heard that.
Oh, how is your outer dissolving?
It's pretty good, David. I think the lower body tends to be a little more challenging than anything,
Mm.
but yeah, it's been going well.
Okay, so you're feeling you're identifying blockages and managing to release them.
Yeah, and I think more so than before going through the meditation class, able to release them from water to air better, water to gas better, and getting a real sense of the blockage moving out of, I'm losing the word right now. The
Etheric body.
yes, thank you. Yeah. Where I think before I always just kind of felt it, sensation of it turning to gas, but still staying within the body as gas, not really getting out.
Good. Great. Progress.
Progress. I find the challenge is doing it while doing God's. That it's much easier to do it when we're not moving, not anything else. I mean, when we're not, or when we're going, maybe 4, is a good example where you can go really slow and do it. And I think that I'm gaining in that, but not all of them feel that way.
No.
Yet, I will say.
It's doing it while you're moving is much more difficult, absolutely, than doing it just standing or sitting. And but with practice, it does get easier. And as always, the more you get to the point where you're not having to think about what comes next, releases the mind to be involved with dealing with blockages as you move.
Yeah.
So
The moving of the energy, the particularly the role of the hands does help tremendously.
Yeah, absolutely. And being able to have that sense that the energy that you are continuously moving the energy
Mhm.
of the body, and therefore that can contribute to releasing
Yeah.
the blockage. Absolutely.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Bill?
It's coming. I think I've been trying to not create images or visualizing as much and let it happen on another level. And that seems helpful.
Yep,
Um,
absolutely.
so
Good. Okay. Well, I want to look a little more at 5 and 6 today. And what well, I'm just going to launch into this. I'm going to
Go
look
for
at,
it.
I don't know about you, but in the beginning, I certainly found 5 and 6 a challenge,
Mhm. Yeah.
to say the least. So in 5 and 6, we're dealing with tightening the system. So what does tightening the system mean? By now, in hopefully movements 1 to 4, you actually have gotten a general idea of how to move the energy of your left and right channels through your legs and arms entirely, so that you're really moving through each half of your body. So when you're going to close down your quad in movements 5 and 6, you're now going to take something that feels perhaps this big and bring it down to something that's this big. And what does that mean? That means that you're trying to completely localize the energy of movements 5 and 6 in your left, right, and central channels. And every body part is now going to learn to coordinate with your left, right, and central channels. And your body parts are not trying to coordinate your left, right, and central channels. They're actually following. All your body parts now have to obey. They don't lead anymore. They have to obey. So you all know the basic procedure. And if you don't, I'll just go through it quickly. It's not very complex. You begin by closing down your quad and everything else in your body, which would include, if you can pull it off, all the joints, all the glands, all cavities, blood vessels, whatever you can find. And you close them down 30%, and that's where you start. Now, the 100% of your movement is only going to occur within 70% of the space because of closing things down. It's going to become even more difficult because that 30% that closes down, that's constant. Screw the 70% rule. So we forget the 70% rule at this point. This is extra beyond that. This is just a fluid, fundamental precondition. Everything you have to be doing is within 70% of that remaining 70%. And don't ask me what the math is. It's not that the 70% is a number. It's that you're simply not moving into extremity. So don't get so fixed because of 70%. Could be anywhere from 50 to 80. It is whatever it is, depending upon your condition. If you're healthy or you're injured or whatever, not moving into extremity. But what that does is really tighten your body. And what that does is that when you do the left and right channels, all attention is on the bone matrix and the channels in your torso. And what's going up the sides of your neck. And when you go for the central channel, you're going for the central channel and not just general things through your body. You're zeroing right in on the central channel and the bone marrow. This is a point that has to be understood. Now, in order to pull this off, you're going to have arm movements that are going to occur. And you'll find in here, I have a note that there's information about this in Bruce's book on Taoist sexual meditation. And I'll copy that out for you and send it to you as an extra. I haven't actually copied it out yet, but I will do so for you. So when you're doing the left and right channel, left, right, and central channels, you're pulling the energy from the Kwa into the central channel, and then you go from the central channel back into the Kwa. When you go from the Kwa, that is the culmination of the left and right channels. But then you go to the center, which is the central channel. But when that center has to be separated back to those points in the Kwa. Now we look at the Kwa, that means that the Kwa has to move in two directions. And that's why we're dealing with a sphere. We're not dealing with linear energy. We're talking about a sphere. But a sphere could get bigger in any direction. So it can expand in any direction. And when it comes down, the point is that it can connect to the center of the Kwa, which is not your psoas muscle. And looking at where the left and right channels are running through your Kwa, which is different than just moving the Kwa muscles, because that is the way the external energy that's coming from your left and right channels gets distributed throughout the body, but is not the way that the real internal energy is moved. So that's going to mean that you're going to have to squeeze everything in, and that you're going to have to squeeze a little bit more to get it to go from the sides into the center and open a little bit so that it can go back to the sides when it moves down. Now, when you first do this, or many Qigong, you do it by thinking, well, it's going up, it goes down, and that's how it gets done, because you get the mind involved. But it's not enough to do it with the mind, and you also have to do it with the body. And when you start with the body, you don't feel the energy that strongly. But as you start playing with it more and more and more, you will. So what's happening when you do these movements? So in 5, it's going up the center and out and down through the left and right and back into the center. And when we do 6, of course, it's going in the opposite direction. And as I'm doing this, we're making loops, and we're not making circles. One of the things to be aware of here is that this is a very important loop between the central channel and the side channels, and we take it in both directions. A circle would be something that goes outside of the body. In this case, it does not. So when you begin, and this may not be true for all of you because you have different levels of development here, but usually you don't take the energy above the solar plexus to begin with. But we do eventually want to get it to the crown of our head. But you don't start that way unless you want to have more frustration and probably failure. So don't assume that you have gotten the energy to the top of your head. Feel where you are getting it to. But then once you got it all the way to the crown of your head, you're beginning to suck the left and right up. And when you talk about the whole thing circling down, because that's when you go to 6, that's when it begins to go in the other direction. Boom. And we're talking about going down through the center. It is a continuous circulation, but it's a loop and not a circle. It stays in, the energy stays inside the body in that loop. You're not even going to try to go past the solar plexus, as I said, or maybe your heart usually when you begin. But for you guys who can really feel the movement of the energy, you have to feel what level you're actually being able to raise and lower the energy through. So from the crown of your head, you're going down, and then you bring it up and you're going down. Blah, blah, blah. So.
We'll read it. We'll read it. Blah, blah, blah.
Well, it's just repetitious, I realized. So what I'd like you to do is to do a little practice of this. And I'd like you to start by doing, I think it'd be a good idea to do 3 repetitions of movement 4, and then make the transition to 5. And then we'll go to 6 in a little bit. But that's what I'd like you to do. So stand up.
David, can you talk about what's going on in the legs? You've talked about the loops up here.
So yeah, actually, I'll talk about that a little as you're practicing. Okay. But
Okay.
yes, when you are bringing the energy down your left and right channels, it's going down your legs.
Yep.
And when you're coming into the center and up the center, it's coming up your legs.
Yeah. Okay.
Basically, that's it.
Yep. Yep.
Remember to Rotate the elbows down and come into your side as you go down. So indeed, as your arms are going down this left and right channels, the energy is going down your legs. And when you come up the center, the energy is coming up. And it's also moving through the arms in the same way. Remember, in the legs and the arms, that if it's the left and right channels, it's your bones. And if it's the central channel, it's the bone matrix, bone marrow, excuse me. Really be aware of those changeover points. Try to really feel those transitions from the central channel out into the left and right, and from the left and right back into the center. And then transition into movement 6. Now the energy goes down the arms and legs as you go down the central channel, and up the arms and legs as you go up the left and right. And really be aware of really feeling the movement of the energy. How high does it actually move in your body? Feel the transition from sides to center to sides. Okay, and so make this your last one, and then close. So, what questions do you have in there? What happened? What didn't happen?
Well, I would say it was a lot to take in, so I decided to focus as much as I could on the qua, closing down and opening. And I think I did okay with that. But focusing there meant that I wasn't paying as much attention to the energy movement, necessarily. So,
That's a good stage to go through, because you really have to arrive at a point where that you're comfortable with that closing of the qua and maintaining it partially closed, and don't have to think about it.
yeah.
Yes, I mean, I've done a lot of work on the qua. I think I got a bit confused by all the math at the beginning. Of my 30%, 70%, where am I here? And I'm still a bit confused about that piece of it.
Well, let me just say, the point here is not conforming to the math, because that 30% could be, some other number, depending on you, on the condition of your body and your energy, and where you are on that particular day at that specific time. So it's more important that you're aware of being able to close the qua to some extent and maintain it through the movement.
So I think maybe that's part of the question, because I can make is the goal to close it and maintain that same percentage of closure throughout, as we are moving. It's obviously easier to do that when we're going down, but when we go up,
Yep.
it wants to open more. And
So
maybe I'm just not squatting enough.
Well, you don't squat very much.
Right, you don't, right?
Is the point in this. And indeed, if you remember, I said that in making those transitions, that those movements are, you're opening and closing a little bit. You're not doing a lot.
Right.
The movement, the body movement is significantly different in 5 and 6 than it is in the other postures.
Yeah. Yes.
And my feeling is that for all of you, it could still be even less than you're doing.
Okay.
And also you have to remember that that means that there is not as much bending and extending in the arms and the legs,
Mhm.
that it's all less. The confusing element here sometimes when you look at that is that it seems as if the movement of the shoulders is still pretty much what we've done before, and it is,
Uh-huh.
but we are closing everything else.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
The shoulders have to move, but being able to get that sense of condensing without
Mhm.
tightening.
Yeah,
We talk
yeah.
about tightening the system, but not tightening the muscles.
Hmm.
So that's the thing that was hard for me, was that I felt like I condensed 30% and now I've got to hold that.
Mm.
And,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and that's a negative. You know, I had to let go of that, and find simply a smaller movement. So your opening and closing is still going on, but it's going on in a smaller range. And therefore actually
Mhm.
creating more power and stronger energy flow.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know, would it help for you to see me do those?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
never hurts. Yeah.
David, could you talk through the transition points while you do it? I found there was a real disconnect between what I was feeling and what I thought I was trying to get the energy to do.
Yeah.
Especially in 5. 6, I think is a lot clearer because I feel like the transition points are clear. But I found 5, especially at the bottom where you're going from the side channels into the central channel, but still sinking a bit as the arms come up. It all felt very amorphous, and I felt like different things were changing over at different times. So
That's good. I will do that.
thank you.
Anybody else want to throw anything else in here?
I guess one question too with the side channel. Are there are there 2 ways to think about the side channel? I felt most of an energetic response to the side channel kind of going from like the shoulders in a straight line down to the quad. But when I tried to feel the difference between energy going in the bone marrow versus the bones themselves, that just felt difficult. I just felt kind of energy on a deeper layer than in the fascia and the muscle, but I couldn't distinguish between anything beyond that.
What I would say is that it is very difficult to feel the energy movement at that level, and I'm not sure that, it's just that you're not there yet.
Okay.
It takes a while to work down through. Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
it is at least for me, for instance, and this is different than the bones, but you feel like there comes a point not too far into this practice, it seems to me, when you think, oh, I'm getting the central channel. I can feel that what you're going to find, but what you find, or at least what I found, was that, yeah, I was finding kind of the center line in my body, but I wasn't really connecting to the central channel yet.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did connect to the central channel, it was a very different sensation and awareness.
Yeah.
That's kind of what, until you can really connect with the central channel, you're not going to be able to connect with the bone marrow.
Okay.
Okay.
You may be able to begin to feel the bone matrix as you're doing the left and right channels, because we've been working on the left and right channels in the first 4 postures for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of everything else that you've done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you for saying that, David, because that's I think kind of where I am, is feeling towards the center line. But it seems like there's always sort of more behind that you're just not quite able to reach yet.
Yep.
So.
One of the things I'm going to get Bill back in here.
Hi.
Sorry, Bill, I was starting to change the camera and then we got to talking.
Yep.
One thing to remember is that central channel connects right into the brain.
Mm-hmm.
When you connect to the central channel, that energy goes right straight up into the brain. And that's part of the difference in the feeling. It's not just energy going up the center and getting to the top of the head. It's going right through the middle of your brain. Which is a different awareness.
Yeah, certainly.
Helpful. That's so helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything for you, Bill?
No. I was chuckling to myself. I don't know how many weeks ago I mentioned when we were doing 6 that I felt I was connecting to the central channel, but obviously with more weeks of practice, I realized that wasn't quite true. And what you just said explained it. I was on the center line, but not in the channel, certainly.
Yeah. And one thing I'm going to say, Adam, about your question about 5, before I do it. The thing with the movement of 5 that's different than the movement with 6 is that where the transition points are for everybody is a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is kind of interesting in that as we teach this, we talked about the arms coming maybe halfway up the torso and then moving out. They may go higher. Part of that is to make sure that you don't jump to the assumption that you're at the crown of your head. So part of where that movement is in 5, because it's different that way than 6, is that you have to feel when have you reached as far as that energy can go up. And it might be in the middle of the torso. Maybe that's where you are. Maybe you are at the solar plexus. Maybe you're at heart level. Maybe you're at throat level. Maybe you are at the crown of the head, but you have to feel that. And so the only way that, I think you have to simply be aware of where is it that your arms have brought the energy as high as it can go, and where is it that you brought the energy down to the qua. So don't get, yes, we teach sort of transition points to begin with, but even in 6, they can vary somewhat depending on where you actually feel that changeover.
Okay.
I don't know if that helps or not, but so
Yeah.
I think what I'm saying is don't get locked into, David said you had to do the movement this way. That's in general, yes, but you
That's why we take
feel
classes.
exactly where it is. Okay. So that was a good question. So I'll start with a bit of 4 first, too. I think it, and actually, probably the most productive practice is to do 1 through 4 first, and then do 5 and 6. And then as you go into 5, as you go down with that movement for now the movement, now you're closing. And you're continuing to close. And then you begin to go into 5. And where those transition points are is something you have to feel. But I think one of the things to really be aware of is that the bending is small. I'm not here. I'm here. I'm still bending. And then I'm extending, but I'm not extending to here, which would be full extension. I'm only extending to here. And it probably is, in making the transition from 5 to 6, it's helpful to really make that connection into the central channel and then go out.
Okay.
And bend, bend, bend. But the qua is moving a little, but it's not moving a lot.
Okay.
Also, one of the things to remember here too was that when we do two, that the arms are out here. When we do four, the arms are out here. When we go to five, the arms are here. And when you go to six, the arms are here. So there are four positions.
Hmm.
So questions in there? Did that?
That helped.
That last
Yeah.
bit was very interesting. I had not thought about it that way.
Yeah. That's just one of those things that I forget it. Oh, I think it was excuse me, Bill Ryan that pointed that out. So, any other questions at the moment on this? Are you stunned or helped?
I think I'm satisfied
Well-
with how much I have to chew on, David.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot here.
Yeah, there is. There is.
There's a
You know,
lot, but it's good. I mean, I like the lot that you've given us.
well, be grateful that I took the other 2/3 that I was
Oh,
going to
God.
teach today away.
That's the 75% you were.
Was that the blah, 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 or?
No.
Oh, not even.
I
Haven't even gotten to that yet.
I prepared for this class today, and then last night I said,
Oops.
I can't teach all of that. I can't expect them to absorb all of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, next week
Yeah.
if we're up to it, we'll work more about bend the bow and shoot the arrow, the spine movement.
Oh,
Well, we got to keep working through the layers here.
yeah. No, that's what we're doing. Yeah.
So,
I would like just a quick clarification that at some point you mentioned that the energy was guiding the arms, I believe. I hope that's putting it correctly. Coming up. And sometimes I find myself in the opposite mode where the arms are pulling the energy. Both and or either or
well, obviously the arms are involved in the movement.
yeah, of course.
I'm not going to say they aren't, but we want to begin, hopefully get past having the arms lead the movement.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
The arms really, the further we go into this practice, both the arms and the legs let go of being leader. They can be, and they are helpful leading at certain stages of the practice, but ultimately they do not.
Okay. It's just so easy because they are
Yes.
visible and moving around to,
They're waving around in front of us. Yeah, absolutely. And that's part of really beginning to feel what's going on inside your
Yeah.
body.
Yeah.
And not because it's so much easier to feel what's happening in your, say, your hands. I mean, I have I have students who've been with me for a long time who say, "Oh yeah, I can feel the energy in my hands," but they don't feel it in their shoulders or in their
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
or and whoopee, you know, we all can feel it in our hands. We can get that in the first few classes. Play with the ball, we can feel that. But we have to go a lot deeper than that.
Yep.
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 Okay.
And part of that is as always, practice, but being open to whatever you feel, and not doubting it.
Mm.
Whatever you feel is what you feel. Um, and we all feel at different levels too. I mean, some people feel really clearly, feel the energy clearly. For some people, it's very subtle, and if you're one of the very subtle people, then it's much more difficult. Or it is at first, because you have to learn to be aware of that subtlety. I'm lucky. I was one of those people who felt energy clearly very quickly.
Mm.
But that's not the case. I mean, I know lots of people for whom that's not the case.
Mhm. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. But that doesn't mean that it isn't moving or that you can't feel it. It's just a little bit more difficult for you.
Yeah.
You can do it.
Mhm, mhm. Hmm.
So I think that's enough for today.
Yeah,
That's really okay.
Thank you.
thank you,
Thank
David.
Thank you,
you.
David. See you all next week.
Yep.
Yep.
Glad you're doing well so far, Bill.
Yeah, thank you.
Care.
And then we have the woo style.
Mm.
Any
There's a question there with what we're talking about today and the 70%. So in the Woo style, when we condense, I guess I always thought about any posture or transition where we're condensing as the energy condensing, but not the physical motion being smaller because of that. So when we condense, should it be smaller? Should the physical motion sort of match what we're doing with the energy?
Yep.
Okay.
So, and this is something I've been thinking about that we ought to talk about for a while. That doesn't mean when you condense in the form, you're only usually condensing the next movement or posture. You're not, that doesn't mean that you're maintaining that condensing for the rest of the form.
Mm-hmm.
You, I suppose you could, but considering the number of times that we condense in the form, by the time you did 30, 30, 30, 30, you would be standing still. So one of the practices that I really like in thinking about this is wave hands,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
because we have the potential to condense every time we come into the middle. So, actually, let me show you what I mean.
Okay, great.
It may be
Yep.
easier actually to demonstrate this than to so usually I have not tried to condense on that first movement. The easiest condensing is here, going into this movement, and this movement then becomes smaller than it might otherwise. But usually you would then go right back to the full movement here, and then you might continue the fuller movement here, but then choose to condense again, and now this movement became smaller. So in that particular posture, because of the repetitions, you can really play with that and get a sense of being able. Good, David. Being able to move from one to the other.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, why don't you try it?
Sure.
And you can just make the choices. Yeah. So what
Mm-hmm.
what did you feel in that? What do you find issues?
I find it different, a different sensation of condensing in different parts of the body.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
feel like I can kind of connect with condensing in the upper body, but not as much in the lower body.
Mm. Yep, you just have to
Yeah.
try to extend that down too.
Right, right.
Yep.
Yeah, I had that same experience of just kind of feeling it more in the
Yeah.
body.
Yep. And when you go through the form, I mean, all the places where you have the potential to condense, you can play with that. Just because we have all those places where we indicate condensing doesn't mean that you have to do that every time. Now, at this level, you're not required to condense every time, but
Mhm.
you want to, as you go through, randomly pick out places to choose to do it
Mhm.
Mhm.
so that you just respond to the moment. I mean, condensing from a Marshall standpoint, it's being used to respond to something that's coming into you. And so it's something that you do in the form or in a Marshall application, kind of an almost instantaneous response.
Mhm.
So this is not, in the form, you have time to play with it, to,
Mm.
say, oh, this time I will respond to it. This time I will condense, or the next time I won't.
Mhm.
So
That
it's
makes
you can go through. Obviously you can go through and condense every time, but and that's, I suppose, in a way, is another way of doing this. I guess I have done that because it gives you training in condensing and releasing it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, because in the form, we're not, as I said, we're not condensing more and more and more and more, but learning that we can condense into a movement and then release that condensing.
Mm.
Um, I don't know. Does that
Yeah.
answer your question there?
Yeah. I think it does.
Um, there, yeah, I mean, the thing is, you can choose to. I mean, there are a lot of places where we have pretty much indicated condensing in the flow of the form, but actually, you could bring it in really any time that you wanted to.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, you can do grasping sparrow's tail in a full movement, and on the other side, you might condense.
Mm.
Becomes the same movements, but not um, not the same because they are condensed.
Mhm.
So,
Right.
just something to play with, really.
Yeah, no, it's helpful. Yeah.
Um, so, do you have other form questions or issues?
Um, with cloud hands, do the hands go to the center line, or they just get close to the center line?
They never leave the center
They never leave the center line.
line.
Because yeah.
um, because the movement, basically, I mean, you have the condensing if you are in the center, and then as it goes out, it enlarges, but it doesn't sweep to the side. It's just going with the body.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Um, it's um, going back to holding, folding, and gearing. It's holding
Holding. Okay. Okay.
Uh-huh.
in,
Uh-huh.
in
Yeah.
terms of the center line. It's folding and gearing. Well, yeah, it's gearing actually because it's twisting and bending and stretching and lengthening.
Mm-hmm.
All of that's going on.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, thank you.
Sure.
Great.
All right.
All right.
All
Well,
right.
Thank you, David.
Good day. Good,
enough to
good
work
class. I promise I won't lose this one.
well,
Got a copy it. I've got to look at it again right away.
I'll try to make sure I really send it. Thanks,
All
guys.
right.
Take
Have a good
care,
week,
guys.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.